You're the co-founder with your amazing husband of Bar 3. I remember feeling muscles that I had never felt before, but there was also this sense of empowerment. There was this sense of community.
I got my first job at a big gym chain and I really cut my teeth there. We were 25 gyms when we started, 430 when I left.
How have you been able to successfully duplicate that heart?
I don't think of it as duplicating. I think of it as amplifying. I knew this was needed. I knew it was the right time. I knew I was the right person to lead it. We need to make our own workouts for them. And we started streaming way back in 2011.
That was early.
It was literally Chris and a camera. Like back then it was like the
actual,
camera.
Like camcorder sitting on your shoulder.
With a tripod. We just put it out there and we had clients in over 30 countries within months.
So excited to have you on the podcast today, Sadie. This is such an opportunity to get the behind the scenes of an iconic brand. And thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
So I'm going to give more of like the official bio because this is such a testament to really your passion, which is women in entrepreneurship and giving women opportunities, specifically women who are mothers, an opportunity to build something of their own. You're the co-founder with your amazing husband of Bar 3. And any women listening who've entered a Bar 3 studio know that is an entire movement. It's so much more than a workout. And I love the mission behind it, which is really focused on teaching people how to be balanced and how to be empowered in themselves. I love especially that all of your franchises are owned by women. Mm-hmm. Is that intentional?
Yes. Yeah. Well, we're intentional about creating a fitness product, a fitness and wellness product for women.
Yeah.
And that starts because I scratched my own itch as a woman, and that's how we started the whole thing. So we really invite anybody to be an owner. And I will say most of our clients are the ones who end up becoming owners. So it's just a natural thing. We're 100% owned and operated by women. We have almost 200 studios now. So.
Which is incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And a lot more than that who stream your workouts online and who've been a part of this movement since the beginning. So for anyone who hasn't followed the story, where does the Bar 3 story really start in your mind?
Well, it starts with me and my own journey in the fitness industry. I've been in fitness for what feels like forever now. Started in college and then grad school, and I got my first job at a big gym chain and I really cut my teeth there. I worked there 11 years and learned all about the ins and outs of how to scale. We were 25 gyms when we started, 430 when I left. I really learned the brand and the culture. I taught group exercise, everything you can imagine, kind of as a side job. But for many of those years, I worked for the founder and then CEO. So really learned the business. All that time, I was silently struggling. Quietly inside of myself struggling. I was maybe fit on the outside, but I certainly was not fit on the inside. I felt lonely. I felt disconnected from my body, but also from other people. I felt like I was chasing an after picture and kind of this promise that fitness has taught me, really since I was born, but certainly growing up in the fitness industry, the predominant message and story is that we consume fitness to be something other than we are, so that we change our bodies. And that narrative only fed an already hurting inside for me. I had a quiet eating disorder for 10 years. I was recovering from that. And I was just starting to feel broken down. I felt pain in my body because I was pushing myself too hard. And it did feel more masculine, fitness in general back then. I wanted something that was more feminine, that was more around women. And my upbringing, I was raised by a collective of women. My mom and her best friend, they were all single moms. They raised their kids together. So this idea of coming together with women and creating a space where you practice fitness as an exercise to be present and honest in your body as it is, versus practicing fitness to change your body or fight with your body to an imagined ideal. So that was the genesis. And my husband and I just went for it. We just knew in every cell in our bodies that this was going to resonate with other people. And we designed Bar 3 and opened our first studio 16 years ago.
Wow. And when that first studio opened, did you have any idea how big it would eventually become? Was that the vision from the start?
Yes, I really did have a vision for it being big. I did. I knew, and I'm not someone that really thinks that way often, but in that moment, I had a clear message. I knew this was needed. I knew it was the right time. I knew I was the right person to lead it because of my own story, but also my wisdom in the industry and proven, professional skill set. My husband too, we both worked in fitness. We knew how to scale fitness, and I wanted to do it for women, and I was excited about it. We built a whole business plan around it. We were very thoughtful about how we started. We knew we were going to franchise from the beginning. I think our business plan was like 50, 60 pages long. We wrote it and then kind of never looked at it, to be honest, but the exercise of writing it was really helpful. So yeah, we did. And I think, our growth continues to surprise me, but I did know it was going to be bigger than just our own studios.
And so I'm almost getting this feeling that like, as an entrepreneur, do you really let your intuition guide you? Is that what you would call that?
Yes.
That knowing?
Yes. I think I have learned to practice listening to my intuition and being really quiet with myself and trusting that in combination with being open to learning from other people and really, thinking things through, and the, financial planning is very important. Often intuition doesn't really guide you in that respect,
Yes.
All the kind of the nuts and bolts of business are incredibly important. I think for me, it's a balance. And I think for a lot of us, it's harder to remember our intuition. It's easier to read a business book. So I have a real conscious practice about remembering to listen within and to trust that.
Yeah, I can feel that as you talk about that, just that knowing in the beginning how big it was going to be. And I think a lot of that ties into the fact that you could feel so personally the challenge that you were solving. At what point in the business journey did your motherhood journey also start? Was that before you started the business? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was pregnant with my first daughter, with my first child, my daughter, that was the seed of Bar 3 because I started to work out in a new way and to have a really positive relationship with the fact that my body was growing and changing, and frankly getting bigger. And I was delighted by it. Yeah. And I was exercising in a way that honored me and this growing child inside of me. That was when I had this lightning bolt moment where I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not failing fitness. Maybe fitness is failing me. So I credit my daughter for Bar 3. She was my teacher right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And we had them back to back. The second one was a little surprise. Found out we were pregnant on her first birthday. With the second, my little guy Drew came along. I was still working at the big company at that point. And that after, Chris and I both, my husband, we wanted to create a company that we were proud to represent for our children. And so our first studio, I think my Audrey was 3 and Drew was around 2 when we opened our first studio.
Which I hear from so many friends, how especially the messaging around fitness and our bodies as women in the postpartum phase.
Yeah.
Not only do we have hormones and emotions that are fluctuating, we're inundated by messaging about the fact that we need to bounce back really quickly. Can you speak to that and how your approach to it and how your whole business really stands for what you're talking about, which is the opposite of that? It's celebrating what our bodies really can do.
Presence.
Yeah.
There is no such thing. It's literally impossible, and it's an imagined concept to bounce backwards. Just like I said with the after picture, it's also completely impossible to get to an after picture. It's in the future. The only thing that's real is being present, right? And honoring yourself in the present moment. And there's no greater and more important time than after having a child, because you are forever changed. Your chemistry of your body's changed. Your life has changed. It is, in a way, an identity crisis for a lot of people. And I think crisis can be a good thing. Like, I'm 52 years old. I'm like midlife crisis / awakening.
Yeah.
Like, I'm learning so much right now. And I think it's true when you're a mother too. And having a fitness program designed around helping you honor yourself in that moment and be truthful. And that doesn't mean pretending to be okay. Sometimes it means just honoring where your body's at in that moment and being compassionate and curious about it. And that we find, profoundly changes women's lives because it's a shift. It's like living into their bodies as they are.
So what would you say to someone who is in a phase of her life? I love how you talked about, whether it's a phase of life where we're entering a new decade. I just entered a new decade this last year, or, going through really major life transformations, becoming a mom, becoming an empty nester. What does fitness offer us in those seasons? Because that's something I've always turned to remember my own strength. Mm-hmm. And I think, we've created this entire culture based on reminding women how powerful they really are. Mm-hmm. What has that looked like for you in terms of what role has fitness played in those pivotal seasons?
It can play a monumental role. We talk about it as inflection points at Bar 3.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah. Inflection points specifically in women's lives. And there are many. I'll get a whisper in the ear, I just had a miscarriage, a woman walking into class. Or later on, you helped me with my grief of losing my husband. Or I'm about to get married. I just had a child. I just lost my job. I just moved here. I don't know anybody. Those moments are the moments where we have permission. We have a different doorway into being present, mm-hmm. And to learning what all those kind of new moments mean to us. Mm-hmm. And when we exercise, it's a beautiful thing because we literally learn things in our body that we can embody into life, like to be strong, to surrender, right? To not copy what everybody else is doing in the room, but to honor your truth, to modify, to literally and figuratively stand up for yourself. If it doesn't feel good on your knees, stand up at the bar. That is a practice of standing up for yourself, and do that in a community of support. And that's why I think most of the people come back and they tell us, wow, you really helped me through those things. It's because we're so caring about how we're helping them, make these amazing changes in their bodies, but also that they're doing it surrounded by like-minded people that really care about them quietly. They might not know what's going on, but there's just an understanding at Bar 3 that we're all here for each other.
Mm. And you feel it when you walk through mm-hmm. the doors. Mm-hmm. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. There's a few studios, and I will actually never forget my first Bar 3 workout because it is sneaky hard.
Yeah, that's really true. Yeah.
I remember feeling muscles that I had never felt before, mm-hmm. and I've been an athlete. I've worked out my entire life. But there was also this sense of empowerment. There was this sense of community. Really, you said it so beautifully.
Yeah.
How, as a founder, here's what I would love to hear you speak to. We can have that as an intention as a founder, but specifically when you start branching out to almost 200 locations, how have you been able to successfully duplicate that heart? Mm-hmm. Because you can have it for yourself as the founder, but having that ripple into the brand it's actually quite a feat. And I would love to hear your business advice on that.
Well, for one thing, I don't think of it as duplicating. Yeah. I think of it as amplifying. So when we decide on a franchisee, a partner, so far it's women. This woman is partnering with us. She is likely putting a big chunk of her life savings, if not all of it, into this concept because she resonates. She has resonance with our vision, our mission, our core values, what we're doing. And we find that out early on. So that's the first gate to okay, let's investigate this further. If you truly are in alignment with what makes Bar 3, and you understand it on a personal level and professional level, that's huge. I would say that's probably 70% of becoming an owner. Mm-hmm. Maybe 60, because you need to have the financials. The business is important. Leadership is very important. But we take that really, really seriously. And we're really careful about the people we sign with for that very reason. And then what's really exciting and why I wanted to franchise is she gets to come in and open her own bar studio, like Kim and Tara, who own here, and Aurora, who owns here in Austin. There's a couple others. They own studios right here in Austin, Texas, and they got to bring their own unique genius to our company, to their studio, and truly make it their own, truly make it local. We hear from clients all the time that have no idea we're big, that we have many locations because we're owner operated. When they walk in there, they see Aurora at Circle C Studio here. They know she's the owner, that's her team, and they're supporting a local business owner. That's really important to us, versus a lot of people think of franchising as McDonald's, that kind of concept, which is hugely successful, wildly successful.
It's done all right.
Yeah. It's just, our product is an authentic experience.
Yeah.
You're literally being touched by people. It's physical, it's intimate, it's important. So we can't replicate it. We can't make it exactly the same at every place.
And I love how I can feel you have no attachment to doing so. You celebrate the fact that each individual really gets to make it their own. And I'm sure your franchisees can feel that too.
Yeah, and with a really clear, consistent class. So the class is very consistent. Yeah. The team has done a remarkable job. We have 4 classes now. Our Bar 3 signature, which combines strength, cardio, and mindfulness. And then we have a deep dive B3 strength, a deep dive B3 cardio, and then B3 mindful flow. All of those are strategically taught consistently. And we've built it in so you can change the sequencing and variety in your playlist so you can make it your own, while the client, if you're taking here in Austin or you're in Manhattan or Portland, Oregon, you'll get that same consistent experience.
Yeah. Okay, so I would love to hear about the first few years. Going from that first studio, you sold your home to fund the first studio. And then what did the first 3 years feel like? What did it look like? Did you fight with your husband as you were building it? Take us to those early years that very few people really get to see, when they see the brand now. Give us an insight into what those felt like.
Okay. So year 1, I would say, was fueled by adrenaline and absolute unbridled optimism. We were not afraid. We were not fear-based. I taught 19 classes a week, which is not healthy, until I could train my first team. Year 1 was about kind of just being awestruck with how successful it was out of the gates and what kind of dynamic clients we had out of the gates who stepped up and said, I want to be a part of this. I want to teach. I want to help you with operations. I want to help you with sales. We had our first amazing team that just kind of were like magnets to us in the beginning. Yeah. So it was really an exciting time. Year 2, we had already opened our second studio that we owned, and we'd signed with 3 studios already. We signed with Vancouver, the Philippines, and I think here in Texas or Seattle. I can't remember, but yeah, so quickly we're signing with people. So that was really exciting. And it was setting up the infrastructure for franchising, which we had experience doing, but we had to really hustle and, figure that out, get that going. We were really hands-on back then. Chris and I literally would fly and help you find your location. I was doing the instructor training back then. Year 3, so that was 2011. That was when things really took off and clients were starting to say, I'm going to Hawaii. I need my Bar 3 workout. And I started to write down the workouts for them. And I got so tired of doing that. I turned to my husband and I'm like, we need to make our own workouts for them. And we did our first DVD, but we also started streaming way back in 2011.
That was early.
Really
to be
early.
In that space. Wow.
I don't think anyone was doing it yet. It was literally Chris and a camera. Back then it was the
actual,
camera.
Camcorder sitting on your shoulder.
With a tripod. And I was the stylist, the, choreography and the talent.
Lighting, sound.
Yeah. Yeah. But we just put it out there and it took off right away. I mean, we had clients in over 30 countries within months. So 2011, things were just definitely taking off. It was a really exciting time.
Wow. What was the most surprising challenge of the journey thus far?
I think the most surprising has been, certainly this is so obvious, but the pandemic was surprising. And
to everybody.
But
the fitness industry especially.
Yeah, how our team rallied. And it was surprising, but also incredibly validating. Our studios, obviously we were forced to shut them down. 30% of boutique fitness permanently shut during that era. It was so sad. Our commitment to fighting lonely, we doubled down on that. We've always said relationships matter more than exercise. It's something since day one, because Chris and I were lonely when we opened our first studio. We doubled down on our community efforts and that local, all those owners just reaching out to their clients, keeping them involved, plus our financial resilience with having beautiful stream platform.
Because that kind of business took off in
we grew 100% year over year within a month. So that kept us financially stable. It allowed my husband and I to keep our team intact in the headquarters when most people were having to just, we did have to lay people off, which was painful, but we kept our top leadership team. And during that era, this was the most surprising thing for me. Number one, I learned to step back as a leader because I was too emotionally attached. I was wrecked from emotion. It was just very, very hard. And I was at that stage anyways, right before COVID to do it. And so it just kind of pushed me over the edge. Like, I need to step back. I need to let this amazing leadership team make the call here. And they decided to design, test, and launch 3 new class formats, which we had never done in the history of Bar 3. And I had some resistance around it, especially during that moment. But we empowered them to, make the call, and it was a huge success. So when we started to recover, which really was only last year when we started to see our recovery, we were slow to recover. We jumped quickly. We really came out of the gate strong. We've grown 30% year over year with our studio growth because of it. And that genuinely surprised me. The whole process of surviving the pandemic and then rebounding from it so strongly surprised me.
And I love that the bonus lesson of learning to step back, because that can be such a big barrier for a lot of us, myself included, is the trust that it takes. What was the biggest lesson that you learned now being on the other side of being forced to make that decision? And how do you think it impacted the business?
Way more healthy for the business. To have a team who are dedicated to this stage of growth. It's a real lesson in me being self-aware of where my natural wisdom lies, where my natural strength is, and making sure I'm pouring into that. And everything I do every day aligns with that. Me pushing myself into the kind of CEO that's scaling a global company was not authentic to who I am. And so I was exhausted, I wasn't performing well, and it wasn't good for the company. And so that honest conversation with myself and that humbling conversation with myself was numero uno. And I continuously practice that, you know? And then secondly, really learning to stand up for myself on the other side of that as a founder, and like what I care about. And the leadership team, having a leadership team that equally respects me, but also pushes me is critical. The respect is absolutely necessary. And, they know, my husband and I put together our guiding principles, and we were like, this is the sandbox. These are the things we can't not ask you about. We care so much about these things. We will always ask you about these. As long as we're in line with these things, go. Do it. Figure this out, right? Do you want to hear what the things are? They're just 5.
Actually, yes, I would love to hear them.
I think they resonate with a lot of founders. So it ladders. So the first is vision, mission, core values. Everything lines up to that. The second is manage your energy according to our foundation. Like, what is the one thing, if we took it away, we wouldn't be a viable company, instead of getting distracted. And ours is teaching the Bar 3 signature class excellent in our studios. That's the foundation. The other formats are really important, in our digital business is important, but that's the first thing. If we're losing track of that, we're in trouble. So foundation first. Right outside of that is what we call enlightened hospitality, and it's inspired by the Danny Meyer group and Shake Shack. And it is about taking care of each other in the in-between moments, behind the scenes, the team, but also our clients. Really going the extra mile to make sure we're taking care of each other. Right outside of that is what we call thoughtful beauty. We care about the design of things, how it feels, how it looks, how it smells, the lighting, how things are designed to create environment, to create community and connection and aspirational, way of being. And the last one is workplace awesomeness. Be a place people want to work.
Oh, I love that.
And if you do all the things above, you will be. That's our theory. And so those are the things consistently when we're in the leadership meetings, we'll ask about, can we work on the thoughtful beauty with that event? Maybe there's a way when people walk in the door not to crowd in that entry place. Maybe we can pull them over here so there's more space, or, that's how Chris and I are often thinking.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful to hear you reflect all of those, and having been a customer and had the experience to reflect back on all the ways that I did feel that, and how your impact really does ripple into the individual studios.
Yeah, we really think it all through.
Yeah.
Where the water filling station is, how the props are lined up, all of it.
We are primarily an events business. So same. I mean, everything from smells, there's so much intention that goes into when you're curating any kind of a physical space that people don't maybe realize, but they are impacted by. So I could do a whole podcast on just hearing your thoughts on that.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're also a mom, and you shared a little bit about that earlier. How has that played a role in your life also as an entrepreneur and a CEO? There's so many moms who listen to this podcast, women who are also building businesses. A lot of your franchisees are also mothers. I just would love to hear your perspective on it, because I think it's so easy to compare the journey of building a business to someone else who has very different lifestyle than someone who's also raising a family while growing a business.
Yeah. It's been my greatest lesson and personal growth moment to balance and to practice balancing. I don't know if I've ever balanced it, to be honest, but being a present, attentive mother and raising a large business. I always knew I was going to be a mother. My earliest memories are wanting to be a mom. I never knew I was going to be a CEO. I wasn't even college bound. I didn't have a lot of passion for business even growing up. Ambition just kind of took over me. I was a little bit of a late bloomer, if you will. I went to City College and then ended up going to UCLA, but ambition just took over me, and it was surprising.
Yeah.
And so I was always struggling with the fact that I wasn't at home all the time with my kids, and I was distracted as a mother. And that led me to seeking out mindfulness training and a discovery around how to be more present. And I have a friend now and a teacher, his name's Don DePani. He said to me once, I said, "Oh, Don DePani, I'm so distracted as a mother. It tears me up. It tears me up. I'm there with them in the kitchen, but I can't help but think about business because I'm obsessed with business. I love my identity out in the world, and what I'm doing takes me away from my core value. My number one core value is to be a present mother. And I'm in conflict with this." And he said, "Of course you're a distracted mother. You practice being a distracted mother all the time." He said, "Whatever it is you practice, you become." And that was groundbreaking for me, because I realized I was practicing something I don't want to become. I never thought of it that way, that you can practice things you don't want to be on accident, right? And that sent me on a more intentional practice of being present at home. So when I was there, not just there in person, making their lunches, but actually there listening to them. And it's embarrassing to say this, but I would truly have to practice that. I'm listen, just listen.
Listen, every mother listening feels so seen right now. So seen.
Yeah. And especially now with the addiction of social media and our phones, and that you can be accessed at any point in time. So just stepping into a more conscious practice has been, really freeing for me. And I've shared this openly with my children. They are now 18 and 20. My baby just went to college.
Oh my goodness.
And it's really neat being able to, they're now becoming more expressive, and they're able to share things with me. They've shared with me that they were always so nervous when we'd go on vacation or we'd have family game night or whatever, because I would schedule them in. And then once we were there, I'm like, okay, let's have fun. Like
It
now's our
is
time.
fun o'clock.
Yeah, it's fun o'clock. Be present. We're all going to listen. We're going to do gratitude circle. Like I would,
That is so me. I feel just very seen.
And it's poor kids, they're not supposed to
Yeah.
show up for their mom and be present on my timetable, So we've had some really good, real conversations about that.
I love the theme of presence in the business and then how that's carried over into family. It really starts in family and then carries over into business. But, I think there are just so many demands on all of us, regardless of whether that's motherhood and business or our relationships and business. Do you ever get the question? I know balance is also such a big part of your core values. How do you balance it all?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you balance it all?
I get that question a lot. I honestly don't know if I've ever been in a state of balance. If so, it was fleeting. And the practice is to not be attached to that as an outcome and consciously practice the art of balance. It is a living, breathing practice. And how I do that is managing my energy proportionate to the people and things who matter most to me. If I'm at work, I need to manage my energy proportionate to where I'm strongest, where I'm going to serve the company the best. I'm going to surround myself with other people that fill in where I miss. And I'm going to use my energy that way, right? If I don't, I'm going to be depleted like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
When I'm with my family, there is no greater sign of love than focusing with family and loved ones, right? I'm not going to look on my phone. I'm trying not to at dinner with my husband. That's rude, right? It's not loving. It's not who I want to be. And so it's more of a awareness thing for me versus maybe always doing it right.
Yeah.
Well, for sure, I don't always do it right.
Yeah.
And compassionately noticing when I don't.
I love that, just the simple idea of removing the expectation. Because there are enough of those on all of us, especially those of us who are ambitious enough and can really resonate with that feeling of, maybe we always knew we wanted to be one thing, and then to have this ambition for business or this vision overtake us. I know myself, I like to be great in everything that I do. And when we have to split that attention between multiple things that we love, it can feel impossible to show up fully as the way we want to in all areas at all times.
Have you ever heard the saying progress over perfection? That's my personal mantra.
Yeah.
Progress over perfection.
Yeah.
Let go of the attachment and just focus on the progress. Focus on the growth. Yeah.
What are you most excited about for the future of Bar3?
Doing what we're doing. I'm really excited to, now that we've recovered, grow and watch what this amazing leadership team I have can do with Bar3 2.0. We acquired a chain of bar studios, the Barcode, last year.
Wow.
22 women came on board. It has been an amazing experience. The founders, Jill and Ari, are fantastic. COVID was hard on all of us, and our infrastructure has allowed those studios to really grow and become Bar3 now, which is amazing. We're continuing down that path for women in boutique fitness who need more support. I'm really passionate about keeping women in fitness. And so that's definitely part of our plan. International expansion is coming up, which we're really excited about with women. Just happens to be. And really creating that omni-channel experience where clients can find us online, whether it's getting a better night's rest. We have a new sleep program, or a restorative mindful flow class, or, kicking it up a notch and doing a cardio class with us, in their hotel room while they travel. That's still really important to us to be able to reach people where they are when they need us the most. So more of what we're doing in an accelerated way.
Yeah. What was the biggest lesson that you have learned from going through the season between 2020 to now, of having those really hard moments and now just getting back to the point where you feel like you have the momentum again?
Number one is that when the struggle hits, when the hard hits, to remember it's a season. This too shall pass. And there is so much within this. Lean in. Like, take a deep breath and take it all in, and really see it as a moment of growth, of getting stronger, of leaning into the discomfort, leaning into the uncertainty and becoming stronger because of it, versus feeling a victim to it that was the big lesson, I think, for all of us, right? In the last 4 years. How can we get stronger because of the uncertainty?
Yeah.
How can I lean into community and fighting lonely even more? Because I've never been more lonely in my life. That I think for me, it's those dark times can be an absolute gift if we face them rather than numb ourselves, run from it, or fight with it. Yeah, I'm going to take that with me into the rest of my life for sure.
What are some of the biggest ways that you personally have grown because you went through that season?
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you the ways. I mean, I feel like a broken record, but I think the main thing was settling into my truth.
Yeah.
And being compassionate for who I am, self-compassion, and not worrying about what everybody else thinks, not performing for anybody else. And part of who I am is I'm an ambitious woman, right? And that I want to live into that and not suppress that for other people, to make other people feel better, that kind of thing. And to always know I can be discerning and that I deserve and my company deserves the best team on the planet, the best, most wonderful clients that care about what we're doing, the best partners, the best people who can amplify this movement so that we can all hopefully start to, take a little dent into the dominant narrative that really is taking women down and making us feel less positive in our bodies, to remember that big picture.
Yeah.
And to not compromise my high standards around it.
Yeah. Oh, I just feel like I'm sitting with just a fellow ambitious sister. Like hearing you talk about not apologizing for that ambition is just so refreshing. And did I hear correctly that you were named one of Forbes 50 over 50? How did that feel to be recognized in that way for this success that you've created?
I mean, the way I found out was so awesome. My husband and I were in Denver visiting our daughter. She goes to University of Denver. And I was scrolling as we do. And I saw this article about like women over 50 don't miss them. They're an important category. And I went and I sent it to my team because I'll send them
chills.
things. I know. I send it to the team because I'm like, oh, this is so us. Like, dig in, like, let's look into this because we're all about that. Right.
Yeah.
And then I double clicked on it and I looked and it was the Forbes and I was listed on it.
And you didn't even know? They don't.
I did not
like
know.
Call you.
They a long time ago.
Tell you.
Our lovely PR folks told me, Forbes, fill out these questions. They're interested in you.
Sure.
Being listed.
And then you send it off and you don't think of it.
They didn't tell us. They surprised, like it was just like a total surprise. And it was alphabetical and I was by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, which she's like one of my absolute favorite comedians. So yeah.
Screenshot, save
forever. Lie, I got a little misty-eyed. Yeah.
Wow.
It was, and also just like so empowering as as I enter this decade, like to be lifted up with other women and to be in that circle of support of ambitious women in their 50s.
Yeah.
Because we do feel invisible. There is a turning point when you start to feel invisible. So that was a big one.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I mentioned I just kind of stepped into a new decade. In December last year, I turned 40 and I feel very much like I'm almost entering a new timeline. I think people talk about, whatever, it's 40 or 50 being midlife, but I think it's such a cool opportunity to reinvent ourselves. And I am one of those people who doesn't really ever plan on like slowing down, or there's like the idea of retirement doesn't necessarily look the same way that I've seen my parents enter retirement. How do you look at that as someone who, I'm sitting here with you today, you're talking about the vision for your future, for the company. I don't really get the sense that you're looking to the future of just rocking chairs and not being someone who's working in your purpose. How do you envision your future as you grow?
Well, honestly, I want to sit in a rocking chair and figure out my purpose there. There is something to that.
There's still rocking chairs involved, to be clear.
There are. Yeah. Literally, I have a rocking chair on our porch, on our cabin.
I do love a good rocking chair.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually being more still and having quiet moments, but maybe my ambition is in a different way.
Yeah.
So maybe it's more creative now. That's something I'm looking into. Maybe it's writing more, perhaps a podcast at some point. It's taking a different shape based on where I am in this age. You know, I can't teach 19 classes a week anymore. You know, I probably shouldn't have back then either, but I don't really want to. It's not where I am in this stage of my life. I really do think slowing down is success. So there's it's like a balance for me, but I'm always going to work. I'm always going to do something where I feel like I'm adding value to the world because it's who I am. It's just in me. How that takes shape, I don't know.
Yeah. How has that changed now that your youngest has gone off to college? So you guys are in a new season, right? This is a new identity. So I don't know. How has that changed your relationship with your husband, who's your business partner? How has it changed your view of yourself in your role, or has it?
It has. So we're fresh here. We just dropped him off.
So just like on the way over to the podcast, you dropped him off.
I mean, this is like our first.
Okay, so come back and let us know.
Even this, like we were talking about it. I'm like, we were on the plane from Manhattan to here last night, and I was like, I feel so free. I'm not worried about like, there's not a game I'm missing. You know, I don't have to make sure, did he get home, or, you know, what's he going to eat, or, you know, all of that. I just feel this sense of freedom, which is totally surprising. The lead up to taking him to college, I was a wreck. I think I did a lot of like rituals and kind of learning, oh gosh, this is a major new phase I'm stepping into, not having children in the home. And so I think I did a lot of that work ahead of time, because now, I mean, at least today, I feel so free. I am so excited to my husband and we're going to India. We're doing a retreat there together. Yeah. I think we're just kind of looking forward to what the future holds and the unknowns around it too.
I love that so much. So for anyone who has never set foot in a Bar 3 studio, maybe even feels intimidated, doesn't know what bar is, doesn't know if it's for them, what would you want to say just as an invitation to explore that as something that could really contribute to us, whether it's physically? I love how the commitment to the mental piece of it. I don't know why at the end of the day I can't think of the word mindset, the mindset piece. Paint the picture of who this workout and really this community is really for. And then we'll, of course, link where people can find a studio near them.
Well, first of all, every single person who walks in the door is intimidated. Even the people you would never imagine are intimidated. I've yet to meet a single client because I get in there. I talk to clients, you know, I have a way with them. And I think it's because I'm just so curious. I was a sociology major, you know. I've never met someone who says I wasn't intimidated coming in. I didn't study the website. I mean, everybody studies the website. Where do I park? What do I wear? Am I going to look like an idiot? Am I flexible enough? Am I going to be the oldest person in the room? Am I going to be the youngest person, the biggest person? You know, everybody goes through that. So we know that at Bar 3, and we do everything we can to help kind of dismantle that. And make sure you know you are not alone in that feeling. We're not going to like talk to you about it or have therapy in the lobby by any means, but just our entire environment, everybody, it's like this quiet understanding that when you step foot in a Bar 3, we're going to deliver a workout that is profoundly changing. It will change because I'm a high achieving woman. Most of the people that walk in the door are. Every moment will be efficient and effective and is designed to help you grow and deepen and get stronger where you need to get strong, and also teach you to do it on your own. Teach you not to copy the instructor. Adopt modifications will show you how. Honor your own truth in a fun, engaging community, you know, with a good downbeat. And
vibes are important. The music and vibes
are so high at Bar 3.
10 out of 10.
We actually we have a vibe training. And it's kind of a hard thing to train on, but we figured out some stuff. A lot of it's the senses, like when to turn down the music, when to turn down the lights, when to amplify everything, when to turn the fans on, the scent, we really think all that through.
I love that attention to detail. And again, to reflect on my experience being in a studio, of course. Now it's like, of course. And that's the experience I hope we get to deliver to people too, who don't understand how they're being impacted. They just know how they feel.
Yeah.
And that is what it feels like to be inside a studio, no matter if it is when I'm traveling here in Austin, if it's at home in Scottsdale, or it sounds like I need to do more international traveling and make maybe like a little map of the different locations. But just thank you for that insight. Number one, into who you are as a founder. I think whenever you get a chance to connect with the visionary behind a brand, it just deepens the connection to a brand. But thank you also just for your commitment to excellence.
Oh,
it's really felt.
Well, thank you for amplifying so many women and for creating this amazing container for women to, learn and grow and rise together. It's so important.
Yeah, well, it was selfishly created.
I love
for
it.
me.
Exactly.
And
that's what great entrepreneurs do.
Exactly.
We scratch our own itch.
To bring it truly full circle. So I love to end every conversation with an opportunity for you as the guest, but also those listening, to pause and acknowledge yourself for something great that maybe you haven't acknowledged, or you haven't paused to just really let sink in. We just call it a powerhouse moment. It can be anything big or small. And I often encourage people to go with the first thing that comes to mind when I ask, what is a recent powerhouse moment that you want to take a chance right now and just acknowledge yourself for?
Honestly, the first thing that came to my mind, I'm going to tell you the first thing that came to my mind.
I love this already.
I have a Whoop now, and I am really proud of myself for adding a metric into my life that helps affirm when I restore and when I sleep well.
That's why same, whatever wearable technology it is, but
I feel like it's really helped me. It's
so
just,
much.
It's like that one thing, like I don't have the dogs in the bedroom anymore because I get a better night's sleep. I was able to see today, did I get it as good of a sleep as I feel I did? And I still trust my insides and my, what I feel, but I really love kind of that accountability of this measurement. So that's the first thing that came to my mind.
It's not small at all. I think it's just that tie-in to the commitment to excellence in all areas of life. And as entrepreneurs, we measure what we want to improve upon. So and mine showed me, unfortunately, that when I have just even one glass of wine, my sleep isn't as great. So I'm
not drinking right now.
Same.
Because of this. And they're having a sober thing this October.
Sober October, because it rhymes.
Yeah. And my husband and I have been on this journey since last May, just really investigating our relationship with alcohol. But exactly. It really affects the sleep. Yeah.
Sadie, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.